Hey guys, it's the Metal Blade 5, and sometimes it's good to be bad. This was a list I had planned for a long time now, but I've only finalized it somewhat recently. Now, despite the fact that these are characters that you're supposed to hate, I'm a big fan of villains in video games, typically because of how evil and badass they appear, and the fact that in instances in which you get to play as the villain, I find it to be a lot of fun. So for this list, I'll be going over my favorite villains in video games. This list has a number of criteria to go through. First, these characters, of course, have to be evil or commit some sort of nefarious act. Second is that the ordering of these villains is partially based on how important they are to their overall game or series. Third is their characteristics and backstory, which links to their motives, and in some cases may involve their dynamic with the hero and their own abilities. Lastly, like with most of my countdowns, I'm only using villains from games I've played, and I'm only using one villain per franchise, so for some of these franchises, they may have other villains I like, but just not as much as the one who actually made it onto the list. But anyway, with that, it's time to join the dark side as we look at my top 10 favorite video game villains. King Dedede. While King Dedede isn't the villain of any modern Kirby games, he is still the primary antagonist of the series, so that gives him more significance than any other Kirby villain. King Dedede is the king of Dreamland, or at least that's what he refers to himself as. But even if Dedede is king, he would be one of the shittest kings ever. And this is because a large part of Dedede's character is motivated by greed and selfishness, which, to be fair, doesn't make him completely evil, but it has led to him committing various acts against the people of Dreamland, such as stealing all of their food for himself until Kirby stopped him in the first game. Dedede has also been portrayed to be more malicious in the Kirby anime, where he attempts to terrorize Dreamland with various monsters provided by Nightmare, and a dude voiced by Dan Green, in which his personality was actually based on George Bush. As for Dedede's abilities, he has several powers similar to that of Kirby's, being that he has the ability to inhale others, however he lacks a copy ability and can only spit them back out, and fly by inflating himself like a balloon. Along with this, Dedede also comes with his weapon of choice being his giant hammer. Despite being made out of wood, that hammer is not only massive, but as stated by Colonel Campbell in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, it has enough force to demolish an entire building. And even though it appears like an ordinary wooden hammer, it's actually mechanical, in which it contains springs and even jet engines to provide greater force. With this, King Dedede can deal out a lot of damage in his boss fights, in which he utilizes all of his abilities together, along with summoning enemies like Waddle Dees and Gordo, and he can switch out his hammer for a more powerful metal one where he transforms into Mask Dedede. The only reason why Dedede isn't higher, and I'm pretty sure you saw this coming, is the fact that he isn't really a villain anymore. He's actually helped Kirby on a number of occasions and has sometimes been the good guy all along, like in Kirby's Adventure and Brawl's Subspace Emissary. Even Nintendo has referred to him more as Kirby's rival, rather than being a villain, but still, Dedede's evil phase was still enough for him to get to the bottom of this list.
I didn't think you'd make it this far, Mega Man!
Dr. Wily. While there are many mad scientist villains, Wily is one of those who stands out from the others. Prior to the Mega Man games, Dr. Albert W. Wily was a genius scientist who worked alongside Dr. Light to develop the Robot Masters. Robots designed with the intent of helping humanity in various aspects of life, such as jobs. This was a tremendous breakthrough in robotics. However, as Dr. Light came up with the idea of the Robot Masters, he received all the recognition and praise from the media, while Wily was left in the shadows. Because of this, Wily grew jealous and began to seek revenge by reprogramming the Robot Masters and attempting to take over the world. Talk about a drama queen, but through doing this, Wily left behind two housekeeping robots named Rock and Roll. Get it? Because he saw them as useless. However, this would be Wily's undoing as Rock went through a transformation and became Mega Man. While Wily has been defeated by Mega Man over and over again, he is still very persistent, as every time he finds some way of escaping, either by being persuasive that he's changed, or even making a backup plan to break him out of prison in Mega Man 7. With this, Wily will stop at nothing to destroy Mega Man and take over the world, even if it's through the use of using an evil alien energy, or developing Zero. Wily's strength comes from his intelligence rather than physical properties, as he has an entire army of robots at his beck and call, including the Robot Masters, and in Wily's boss battles he always has some sort of machine ready, whether it be his regular capsule, a pirate ship, or even a frickin' dinosaur. However, Wily is an idiot. Despite what his intelligence may let you on, he makes all of his robots weak to each other and makes some ridiculous concepts out of them. You know, Wily, if you actually did make a spiked wall man, Mega Man would never be able to beat you since he doesn't bother to immediately go to your fortress. Even with those flaws, Wily is still the de facto villain of the Mega Man series, and his actions have had a tremendous effect in the Mega Man universe, as seen in the X series.
Lose your rage. It only destroys.
Cyrus. Pokemon is full of villains, but of course, I can only choose one for this list, so I went with the one I think is the best. Cyrus, the boss of Team Galactic. Unlike the majority of this list, little about Cyrus's backstory is known. However, there are hints of it within Gen 4. Cyrus was raised in Sunny Shore City by his grandfather, but at some point in his life, Cyrus developed a massive distaste for the universe due to the existence of emotions he deemed weak and useless, where he gained a belief that the universe was flawed and that these negative elements should be completely erased. Because of this, he created Team Galactic, who began to terrorize the Sinnoh region to reach Spear Pillar at the center of Mount Coronet to harness the powers of Dialga and Palkia, the Pokemon of time and space respectively, to destroy the universe and replace it with a new one that he would deem perfect. Cyrus has a cold and serious attitude, and later in Platinum it's revealed that Cyrus doesn't care at all about Team Galactic, and that he plans to make his new universe solely for himself. Also, in Platinum, Cyrus's plans are interrupted by Giratina, in which he is dragged into the Distortion World but attempts to keep the connection between the two worlds open so that both will be destroyed. However, when he's defeated, Cyrus runs off and stays behind in the Distortion World forever. Similarly, in the anime, where he's voiced by Sean Schemmel, after Ash, Dawn, and Brock destroy the red trains made from Arceus that Cyrus was using to control the Dialga and Palkia, he jumps into the portal of the new universe he created before it collapses, trapping him forever. When it comes to the battles against Cyrus, he is one of the tougher bosses in Gen 4, as he uses both fast and hard-hitting Pokemon with a Houndoom in Platinum, a Honchkrow, a Crobat, a Gyarados, and his strongest Pokemon, Weavile. And in his last battle in Platinum, these Pokemon have various moves to help cover their weaknesses. Now, as you're probably guessing, the only reason why Cyrus isn't any higher is because he was only in one generation. Therefore, his overall role in the series is limited. However, I think that Cyrus is the best Pokemon villain because of his serious and dark plan, as well as his cold personality and outlook on the world. Heihachi Mishima. In the Tekken series, Heihachi is the main villain, as he is practically responsible for everything that occurs in the series. This is because he is the leader of the Mishima Zaibatsu, a company which also doubles as a crime organization. Heihachi took control of the Zaibatsu from his father Jinpachi, and when Jinpachi attempted to take back control, Heihachi locked him underground to starve to death. This began a trend in Heihachi's life in which he is an absolute asshole to members of his family. After spending a lovely night with his wife Kazumi, Heihachi's son Kazuya was born. And when he was 5 years old, Heihachi threw him off a freaking cliff in a test to prove that he was truly his own, if he managed to climb back up. Fortunately for Kazuya, he survived the fall thanks to his devil gene, a genetic trait passed on from his mother that allows him to turn into a devil. And after climbing back up, he sought revenge on Heihachi, which he did in the first Tekken game where he froze Heihachi off the exact same cliff. Heihachi actually managed to survive the fall despite not having the devil gene, and after defeating Kazuya in Tekken 2, who had claimed control of the Zaibatsu, Heihachi took it a step further and threw him into a fucking volcano! Kazuya survives this once again, but is presumed dead for some time, in which Heihachi discovers Jin Kazama, Kazuya's son and his grandson who also has the devil gene, and began on an attempt to take the devil gene's power for himself, as well as obtaining power from beings like Ogre. As you can guess, Heihachi is insane. He's constantly trying to find ways to become more powerful and seize control of the Zaibatsu. Even when he's removed from power, he eventually gets it back. And when Heihachi himself has supposedly been killed, such as being blown up, he survives, and even goes as far as to strap his family to a rocket and launch them into space. And in Tekken Tag Tournament, he managed to develop a serum to make him young again. Obviously, since Tekken is a fighting game, you get to play as Heihachi, and he's one of only 4 characters in the series to be playable in every main installment, although you have to unlock him in Tekken 1. Heihachi is actually one of my best characters in Tekken. There are other characters I prefer to play as, like Yoshimitsu, but Heihachi is up there in my favorites, due to his attacks being pretty fast while also having decent power to them. He's even Harada's favorite character in the series. Let this be known. If you get in Heihachi's way, even if you're a member of his family, he will track you down, he will find you, and he will kill you.
Rest in peace.
Virgil. While some people may consider Virgil more of an anti-hero, he was the villain of Devil May Cry 3, so I'm still going to count him for this list. Virgil is Dante's twin brother, being the offspring of the Dark Knight Sparta, and a woman named Eva. Virgil is half human, half demon, in which he can use demonic powers. After Sparta died, the seal he placed on the demon ruler Mundus after rebelling against him had been broken, so as revenge, Mundus sent his demon followers to kill Sparta's family, in which Eva was murdered, Virgil was assumed dead, and Dante survived. Because of this, Virgil went mad with grief as he felt that he had been unable to save his mother, and this led him down the path of darkness, where he fully embraces his demonic side, while Dante wishes to hold on to his human half. In Devil May Cry 3, Virgil attempted to open the gates between the human and demon world, but was stopped by Dante, in which Virgil stayed behind in the demon world and encountered Mundus, who transformed him into the demon Nilo Angelo, who Dante had to kill in Devil May Cry 1. While Dante is extremely brash and hot-headed, Virgil is more calm and collective, and he still fights with honor, making him the blue Oni of the two, which matches his coat. The main appeal I have as to why I like Virgil is not only his dynamic with Dante of being brothers whose different paths in life led them to fight each other, but also because of Virgil's playable appearances in the special editions of Devil May Cry 3 and 4. I love playing as Virgil. Virgil's attacks are a bit faster than Dante's, but aren't as strong, and he also comes with Sparta's sword Yamato, a normal broadsword, and the Beowulf gauntlets and boots, which give Virgil a variety of moves and playstyles to use from the get-go, as Yamato is strong but has a delay in some of its attack, the broadsword is more akin to Dante's playstyle, and the Beowulf opens the way to a lot of combo potential. What I love most about Virgil is his energy swords. These are swords that Virgil can create, which act as both a projectile for Virgil to shoot enemies and keep at his distance, but they can also create a shield around him, which deals continuous damage to enemies. And of course, since he's one of Sparta's sons, Virgil also has access to the Devil Trigger, which allows him to heal himself. The only downside I have with Virgil is that despite being a major character, his only real appearance in the original series was in 3, since he's Nilo Angelo in 1, where he dies, and every other game takes place after that. But still, he's better than DMC Virgil, where they made him completely honorless.
When freaky aliens give you lemons, make freaky alien lemons.
Hades. Hades has the least amount of backstory out of all the villains on this list, but he more than makes up for it in his other categories. Hades is the ruler of the underworld, as the same goes for the Hades from Greek mythology, and is constantly using his forces to create chaos and rule the human world and the other gods. While Hades was first introduced in Kid Icarus Uprising, where he was revealed to be the main villain after Pit defeats Medusa, it's actually revealed that he was responsible for the events of the original Kid Icarus, as he has revived Medusa many times in the past through the use of souls. But of course, as anyone who has played Kid Icarus Uprising will know, the reason why Hades is on this list is because of his flamboyant personality. Hades is easily the best character in Kid Icarus Uprising, which is already a game filled with personality. When I first heard about Hades, I instantly fell in love with him. Not like that! Hades is an absolute joker. Throughout the game, he's constantly making witty remarks and jokes, as well as breaking the fourth wall like many other characters in the game do, but Hades is particularly fond of this. Anyone who hasn't played Kid Icarus Uprising has to look up Hades' moments, because they're hilarious. For example, in the first chapter after Hades is revealed, he makes up a story that he wants the Wish Seed to bring back a girl's dead parents, where he actually killed them, and Hades says, "It was simply a case of distracted chariot driving. I shouldn't have been doing my hair." And after saying that, he'll make them rich, he says, "And that's the general gist of my wish. Pretty noble and not at all evil, right?" And of course, who can forget the freaky alien lemonade quote I used earlier? Like many players of Uprising, there are moments when I actually want Hades to win, since he's that charming of a villain, and his characteristics easily stick out as it's probably the most ridiculous interpretation of the Lord of the Underworld I have ever seen. When it comes to Hades' boss battle at the end of Uprising, it's a pretty crazy battle, as there's a lot of shit going on at once, which you need to be prepared for, and then you have to charge up the finishing blow by avoiding shots. However, like with Cyrus, Hades was only in one game. He left a huge impression, but he was still only in one game. Seriously, Sakurai, why didn't you use Hades in the Palutainus guidance conversations? Those were just screaming for Hades to appear. Ridley. I finally get to talk about Ridley without it being in relation to you know what. Even though Ridley has never been the main villain of any Metroid game, he is still the primary antagonist as he appears in every main series game except for Metroid 2 and Metroid Prime 2. What I like most about Ridley is his backstory and in turn his relation with Samus. Ridley is the leader of the Space Pirates, an intergalactic criminal organization who raid colonies and ships throughout the universe. Through this, on one day, Ridley led the Space Pirates on a raid of a human colony on the planet K2L to steal a type of crystal known as a fluorite. This was the same colony that Samus lived on as a child. Because of this, Samus, who was 3 years old at the time, encountered Ridley face to face. However, she didn't realize that Ridley was a threat, and attempted to make friends with him. However, Ridley attempted to kill Samus, but Samus' mother Virginia saved Samus and was killed by Ridley instead. Meanwhile, Samus' father, Rodney, sacrificed himself to blow up Ridley's spaceship. Afterwards, Samus was found and raised by the Chozo, in which Samus received Chozo DNA, giving her superhuman abilities, along with her iconic power suit. Some people believe that Ridley's character is directly tied with his appearance, but that isn't the case. Ridley's character is defined by his deep connection with Samus, being that he killed her parents, and the fact that he is extremely violent and persistent. No matter how many times Ridley appears to have died, he always comes back. He always does. In the first Metroid, Ridley was completely blown up into pieces, but was revived with cybernetic enhancements to become Meta Ridley. And after dying for good in Super Metroid, he was unintentionally cloned in Other M, and then the clone's corpse was then copied by an X-Parasite in Fusion. As for Ridley's boss battles, Ridley easily has the best boss battles in the entire Metroid series. All of them are memorable in their own ways due to their scale, like falling down a gigantic mine shaft, or how they show off Ridley's insane nature. And this is backed up by Ridley's theme, which further fits with the intensity of these battles. Lastly, while Ridley appears to be a mindless beast in the games, he's actually very intelligent. This is because in the Metroid manga, which is canon to the games, Ridley speaks. I don't know why he doesn't do this anywhere else, but he can. Dr. Eggman, or Robotnik, or whatever you choose to call him. Ivor Robotnik's original goal in the classic Sonic games was to mechanize the world by stuffing animals into robots. But after the Mega Drive era, his goals shifted to various plans that were mostly due to taking over the world or just a random area, such as wanting to create Robotnik Land in Sonic Adventure, and then threatening to blow up the entire world with the Ark in Adventure 2. Now, despite Eggman supposedly possessing an IQ of 300, he's a freaking idiot, and as such, you may be wondering why Eggman is so high on the list compared to the other villains who are mostly more serious. Well, aside from how iconic he is, I like Eggman a lot because I like comedic villains just as much as serious ones, since they are typically written in a way that makes them very entertaining, like with Hades. Eggman has had a lot of funny moments due to some of his interaction with Sonic, and especially when Orbot and Cubot were introduced, which turned them into the Three Stooges. Even though Eggman is an idiot, and some people call him a shit villain because of that, he has come up with a lot of smart plans, like the previously mentioned use of the Ark to threaten the entire world into giving all the Chaos Emeralds, and even using it to blow up half of the moon, and in Sonic Generations when he attempted to use the Time Eater with his classic counterpart to erase all of his previous defeats. Plus, Some of his inventions have been very effective, like Metal Sonic, which matches Sonic in his speed as well as being equipped with tons of destructive weapons, including the ability to evolve and copy others. Even though Metal Sonic, like some of Eggman's other creations or beings that he's controlled like Chaos, have beaten him up on multiple occasions. Of course, being the primary antagonist of the Sonic the Hedgehog series, Eggman has the most boss battles. And while he does have a few crappy ones and likes to repeat himself over and over again, he also has a lot of epic ones like the Doomsday Zone robot and the Egg Dragoon, and these fights typically keep Sonic's speed as a major factor. While Eggman is one of the goofiest villains on this list, and while he has been an idiot and sometimes just there like in 06 and Boom, I still like him for how ridiculous he is because it is highly entertaining to watch. Ganondorf. There were some other Zelda villains that were contenders for this list, like Ghirahim, but only one per franchise, and I had to go with the main villain of the series. Ganondorf Dragmire was born in the harsh conditions of the Gerudo Desert, where he was the first male Gerudo born in 1,000 years. And in the desert, he became a master of dark magic from being trained by the twin Rover sisters. However, Ganondorf was actually the reincarnation of the Demon King Demise, and as such, he adopted his goals of wanting to obtain all 3 pieces of the Triforce to rule the world. While failing to obtain all the pieces, Ganondorf did obtain the Triforce of Power when he entered the Sacred Realm, which gave him incredible strength and durability. What I like most about Ganondorf is his cold and evil nature, where he'll use anyone to further reach his goals, like Zant, and his boss battles. Ganondorf has some of the best battles in the Zelda series, with both his use of dark magic, like in the Energy Tennis, and being a master swordsman, like in the final battle of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. And of course, he also has the ability to transform into his beast form as Ganon, where he becomes a giant pig demon, and cranks up the epic scale on these battles to 11. Every Ganon battle has been awesome in one way or another. Another thing I like about Ganondorf is his persistence. Like with Ridley, Ganondorf keeps coming back even though he's been killed tons of times. This is because of Demise's curse, which reincarnated himself as Ganondorf in the first place, which haunts Link and Zelda's reincarnations for all eternity. Well, sorta, because in Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, Ganondorf dies for good. But in the Fallen Hero timeline, where he actually wins at the end of Ocarina of Time, he's kind of still around as Ganon until Zelda 2, but he still had the possibility of being resurrected. And in the Child timeline, there exists a second Ganon in Four Swords Adventures. Even though Ganondorf isn't winning any competitions in the personality department when it comes to Zelda villains, and while he isn't the villain of every Zelda game, he still leaves a lasting impression on the franchise. And let's be honest here, when your title is the King of Evil, you know you mean serious business, because it suggests you rule over any other evil that exists in the world. Even in Smash Bros., Ganondorf is shown to be exceptionally evil, as in the Subspace Emissary, he was planning on betraying Master Hand and taking over Subspace until Taboo showed up and turned him into a trophy. And I know I keep bringing this up, but the Palutine's Guidance conversation of Ganondorf is bullshit! They're all the same dude except for Four Swords Adventures, and that one doesn't even have any other connection to the previous one. Like with my top 10 SSB4 newcomers, I'm pretty sure you all saw this coming. Showtime! Bowser. So you're probably wondering why Bowser is number 1, because his plan is that he just kidnaps Peach every single day. Well, if we were just going off their plans, then Bowser probably wouldn't even be on the list, but the reason why Bowser is my favorite is because of everything else about him. When Bowser was a baby, he was raised by Kamek, and immediately he began to kidnap people as he had Kamek steal baby Luigi in Yoshi's Island. Throughout the rest of his life, Bowser pretty much just started kidnapping Peach, or in a few exceptions, other people. While Bowser mainly kidnaps Peach, some of his plans have gone slightly beyond that, such as attempting to take over the entire universe. Twice. He even made his own son think that Peach was his mother to help kidnap her, even though Bowser Jr. knew that Peach wasn't his mother. Spoiler alert, it's Miyamoto. What I love so much about Bowser is his personality. Bowser is a freaking idiot who focuses far more on brawn than brain, but in the games in which Bowser speaks, they give him a lot of personality. For example, in the Paper Mario games, Bowser is by far the best character because of his personality and the many comedic moments they place him in, such as saying that only he can kidnap Peach whenever anyone else does, and becoming the great and terrible king of guys who talk to posters. Also, in instances in which Bowser is playable, I love playing as him. I love Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story just because you get to play as Bowser, and his skills and abilities in that game are really fun to use. And in the spin-offs like Mario Kart and the Mario Sports games, I frequently play as Bowser because I like his focus on power. Although in Mario Party, Bowser can fuck off because Bowser Party is freaking broken. And of course, I can't mention Bowser without going over his boss battles. While there are some Bowser battles that are pathetically easy, like in Galaxy 2, there are many enjoyable ones, like in the new Super Mario Bros. Games, except 2, and especially in the RPGs, where some of them are actually very creative, like in Partners in Time, where Bowser and his baby self team up with each other. I'm pretty sure everyone remembers at least one of Bowser's boss battles, since they're so iconic, just like he is. Plus, he's a freaking turtle dragon. It's a concept that sounds both weird and awesome at the same time. While Bowser's plans are repetitive, he more than makes up for it, in my opinion, with his idiotic and lovable personality, except in Sticker Star where he didn't speak, and because I love playing as him when given the opportunity, and his many memorable and awesome boss fights. Plus, if I'm being a bit honest here, I would kind of say that I probably like Bowser due to nostalgia, since it's probably the first instance I've ever had of liking a villain.